So welcome back, everybody, to Umineko.
Okay, you turned into Maria for a second there.
Umineko. I was actually thinking to myself while we were not grabbing tea between recording these two sections, that maybe that's what Maria is doing. Maybe she is being a seagull.
Oh, she's like being a seagull.
Yeah.
Like, ew, like a seagull.
And maybe she cries, and that's what it's all about. It's all about
what?
It's all about how not to abuse little girls like Rosa.
Maria's the true protagonist.
Battler is just a ruse.
It's true. All right, let's continue.
So, for those of you that lost, so am I. The uncomfortable atmosphere continued even after those two left. It was thick with the idea that simply thinking about the culprit's identity would be the same as deciding who to suspect. It had begun to feel like the discussion of the case was itself taboo.
Yeah.
No one mentioned the case, at least out loud. However, those thoughts were what filled our minds. All that we could say aloud made our heads feel like they were going to explode. So at least on the outside, the parlor had once again regained its calm mood. Everything was left unsettled.
Ooh. It feels like the rain's getting a little lighter. Ew. Still pouring down. Ew.
Even if it did stop, there's no boat on this island. It'd be nice if the boat came quickly tomorrow. I've had enough of this Western Mansion vacation. Comrade Mum, when will the boat come tomorrow?
Normally, the boat to take them back would arrive at 3 o'clock today. They probably sent us a phone call to say they would come after the typhoon passed, but unfortunately the phones aren't working. But they aren't children over there. They were told to both drop off and collect our guests. So they will most likely arrive first thing tomorrow morning, probably about 9 o'clock, I believe.
It was completely black outside. When I looked at the clock, I realized it was just past 7 o'clock. I was just starting to get hungry.
Let's get some food.
Let's get some food!
Yeah.
In the kitchen, Kumasawa was cooking enthusiastically. She laid out a variety of dishes, and when they didn't match the love Goda's art for cooking, they were still quite gorgeous. I'm gonna stop doing this accent. You want to take this?
I'll take this. It was an act of kindness from Kumasawa, who was trying to enliven everyone's low spirits with some food. Kumasawa wasn't nearly as talented as a professional cook like Goda, but she was far from unskilled. On the contrary, since she had been brought up in a fishing village, the simple food she created from mackerel was sometimes highly praised. Kanon arranged the food Kumasawa had finished creating on plates under her direction. Kanon also helped in the kitchen sometimes, but since he was rarely placed in that role, he was slightly awkward even though he tried his best. Self-conscious about the fact that he couldn't cleverly arrange the food, Kanon's expression darkened slightly. But Kumasawa smiled as though everything was fine. Oh, ho, ho, it's arranged beautifully. Kanon-kun, aren't you skilled? If it had been Shannon-san, it would look even more beautiful.
Oh.
Kanon stopped arranging the food for a bit and hung his head. He's so emo.
No.
Shannon was the one who always assisted Kumasawa in her cooking.
No.
Tonight, Kanon was doing it instead because she was fucking dead. And as he remembered Shannon's face at the end, he grimaced. I'm sorry, I'm being very disrespectful. I love these characters, but I'm sorry.
You're just the worst, Ben.
I am. Forget that for now. Genji spoke kindly to Kanon as he advanced the pawn while they played chess. Nanja had escaped from the parlor once the mood had grown sour, and Genji had become his opponent in a game of chess upon Nanja's request. Yes, I will forget it for now. Indeed. That is probably for the best.
That is very uncomfortable.
Genji purposely refrained from facing Kanon as he spoke. He did so because he understood that it might make things tougher on Kanon if he noticed that someone was looking at his eyes. Nanja also understood that and held back any thoughtless words. I wonder where Ginzo-san has gone. I hope that he is safe, but I do not know. However, I believe everything has proceeded as the master has hoped and arranged for.
Ah, yes, the 6 murders.
Yeah, who distrusts that would exceed my role as furniture in service of the master. Aren't you scared, Genji-san? I am frightened that something bad will again occur tonight. I have nothing to be afraid of. I serve the Oshomiya family, and that is all. Nanja sighed through his nose and made a carefully considered move. Nanja was very slightly dubious. Could Genji possibly be thinking that he'd be left out of this? He couldn't even imagine what was happening inside this mansion. But he definitely couldn't deny the possibility or confirm that Ginzo had devised something. If you liken this island to chess, Ginzo had opened the game, and as a result, 6 pieces had been defeated. Could it be that Genji was calm because he believed he alone was on the outside of the chessboard and therefore safe? Andrew thought about it. Isn't everyone just a piece on this chessboard, lined up equally without any exceptions? Wasn't even Genji who had gained more of Kinzo's trust than anyone? No, he was confident of his position as Kinzo's only close friend. Just another one of the pieces laid out on the chessboard. Genji-san, I am truly frightened about tonight. I hope with all my heart it will still be safe when tomorrow morning comes.
That doesn't sound like safety.
That's pretty ominous. Get a shot of Kinzo's study and then flash to the guest room Eva and Hideyoshi had moved into. It had originally been built to house guests before the guest house's construction. So until a few years ago, they had stayed in these rooms every family conference and were very familiar with them. This room was just like a room in a hotel, with a bedroom and a bathroom, so even though they were still shut in, it was far more comfortable than the parlor. Guess it's true you can relax more when you're alone with your family. Maybe it'd be better if everyone else also shut themselves in guest rooms and locked the doors.
Natsumi-san that no one could leave the parlor throwing her weight around. I'm sure no one will be able to talk back. She's always been treated so coldly now that Nissan's dead. She's getting excited about finally having so much power. Seriously, how shameless can she be?
Come now, don't say that. Natsu-san's doing pretty well. No need to jump at her like that. And about the receipt, you went too far.
Come on. If I hadn't said it there wouldn't be another good time to say it.
Ava, sulking cutely and looking, the bae is looking cute, at the television, sat alongside Hideyoshi, who was lying on the bed.
No.
Zero. What?
Still, we haven't been alone like this for quite some time.
You're right. Come to think of it, both you and I have gotten pretty old. Since George was born, everything's gone by in the blink of an eye.
It really has. I wonder if we were too hasty in having a child.
Ava's eyes looked like they were staring off into the distance. Yes, she had thought of it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Her older brother Kraus had been unable to father a child for quite some time. 6 years passed after his marriage to Natsu without any signs of pregnancy, which didn't please Kinzo at all. Eva herself had thought that, since her name would be moved outside the Oshumiya family register when she got married anyway, it didn't matter whether a successor to the headship was born or not. And then, one day, she had a heavenly revelation. Or maybe it was the whisperings of the devil that she had listened to and agreed. If she could give birth to a successor first, wouldn't she be able to remain in the Oshumiya register? If things went well, might she have a chance to inherit the Oshumiya family herself? When she proposed this to Hideyoshi, he had approved of it instantly. This wasn't because Hideyoshi also had greedy thoughts. For Hideyoshi, who had no close relatives, there was a chance for him to feel once more the long-forgotten thing called family. So when they got married, he hadn't fussed over which last name they were to keep, and they quickly agreed to have his name entered into the Oshumiya family register. It hadn't been easy to persuade Kinzo, but as his daughter, Eva knew Kinzo's personality well. So by choosing the time when Kinzo was most satisfied with Natsu, she was magnificently able to make him accept Hideyoshi as an adopted son-in-law. Looking at Hideyoshi, who had achieved success after starting from nothing, Kinzo might have seen a little bit of himself. He quickly grew to like Hideyoshi and approved his transfer into the Oshumiya register. George would eventually become the successor to the Oshumiya family. They had raised him strictly and with that purpose in mind. He had been worth their while and had grown into a fabulous young man who wouldn't disappoint no matter where he went. That was why he had not been permitted to fall in love with a servant like Shannon. So when she'd learned that Shannon was dead and the engagement was now invalid, though part of her had still been shocked by the gruesome crime, part of her had also been relieved that her dear George would be stolen by some servant girl.
I have hated Kraus-Nissan since long ago. He was so full of himself, always swaggering around. So proud that he would one day become the head. So I wanted to get back at him. Was that just a childish emotion? In the end, that emotion guided my entire life. If that had been all, then it would have been fine. Because of that emotion, I got you and George involved. I used you.
Eva, don't blame yourself for that. Hideyoshi got up and held Eva's shoulder. She could feel a warm understanding from him. Well, I have reached the halfway point of my life long ago.
Were those just birds in the background?
Little seagulls? Yeah. Part of the soundtrack. But you know, I have absolutely no regrets about how I've lived my life. Not one. I think that since I've been with you, Eva, I've been able to relish an enjoyable life that other men never will. After I lost my relatives in the war, You reminded me of the warmth the family is. So I'm grateful to the Ashumiya family, and think of it as my only one. In this life I've lived with you, not a single thing's been wasted. It's really been a fun life up till today.
I'm so glad that they're doing this lovely scene before they get murdered.
Please continue.
Thank you, darling.
Darling. Eva hung her head, burying her face in Hideyoshi's chest. Probably no one in the parlor could even imagine that this side of Eva existed. Now I'm the one who should be thanking you. Until today, there hasn't been a single day I've regretted being with you.
Until today! Me too. I'm so glad to have you by my side.
George is already a fine adult. You know, don't look out for him. He's a man who can do his job well on his own. I wonder, around New Year's, do you want to spend some time in the Maldives?
I think those are islands.
Yeah, just us, no one else.
No way. Joy is saying that you're so busy responding to New Year's cards you don't even get sleep.
None of this New Year's. I won't read New Year's cards. I'll just stay quiet and check to see if I've won the New Year's lottery. It'd sure be nice if we won a color TV this year.
No way. I don't want to waste time checking the lottery while in the Maldives.
None of that either. How does it sound? Just the two of us taking it easy, like when we were newlyweds just before George was born.
Yes. In that case, fine.
I hear the Maldives are wonderful. An island with nothing on it, surrounded by beautiful coral reefs, and cottages lined up over the water. And a beach episode.
Like when we were newlyweds, you say? Starting when?
As soon as I finish up some business. I won't know until I ask the travel agency, but probably before New Year's Eve.
No way. Not right now. To go right now.
Evan knitted his lips in a peevish yet flirtatious manner. The only sounds that filled the room were the distant voice at the announcer of the news, which Hideyoshi had left on, the obnoxious pounding of the rain against the window.
The last time I think we heard that soundtrack was when George proposed to Shannon.
That's true. I think so. Pretty common.
Just before she got murdered.
There was a knock. There was a knock on the door, and Genji-san entered.
To which room?
Oh, actually, this is definitely your scene. That's okay. Madam, dinner has been prepared. Will you eat in here again? Yes. Have it brought here. Is Dr. Nanjo still in the kitchen? Yes. He has said he wishes to carefully deliberate over his next move.
Oh.
Do not worry, he is with the other servants and not the culprit. What?
Genji-san's good enough at chess to be grandfather's opponent. I hear he's even better than Comrade Dr. Nanjo, right?
You can't just put two separate titles in front of the name.
Me.
That's right. Long ago he played against me, but he must have let me win.
Maria sounds like it'll be time to eat soon. Look at you, you've been watching TV all day long and you still haven't gotten bored.
Ew. I'm always watching TV, so I'm fine. Ew. Hey, Maria-chan sure is a TV kid.
Food's coming, so you have to clean up the table. Earlier we'd torn several pages out of Maria's notebook, and there was now a mess where everyone had been drawing together. Jessica began cleaning that up quickly. Still, everyone here really can draw. I never guessed.
Genji, ask Eva-san and Hideyoshi-san whether they'd at least like to have dinner with us, although they will probably turn us down. Certainly. First father, now Eva-san. It's quite hard to gather everyone to the Ashumiya dinner table.
Natsui felt her headache start throbbing again and lightly held her temples. I'm excited. Did they find them dead?
I don't know, there's some ominous wind blowing. The distance from the kitchen to the parlor wasn't that great, so Genji had gone and come back by himself, but the guest room was a little farther away. Natsu had warned him to avoid being alone whenever possible, and just now, Nanjo had also admonished him, saying it would be better if he had a little more concern for his safety. Kanon accompanied Genji, and the two of them went to visit Eva and Hideyoshi in their guest room. Genji knocked on the door. Eva-sama, Hideyoshi-sama. Dinner has been prepared. He waited a short while for them to come out, but there was no response. Genji-sama, look at this. Kanon pointed under the door. Oh, it's an envelope had been inserted underneath it.
Oh boy!
Normally when something was inserted this way to be interpreted as a message from someone outside to someone in the room,
Oh,
So since
boy!
this might be a private note meant for Eva and Hideyoshi, it was not something that Kanon and Genji was supposed to take interest in, but they did anyway. But this Western envelope was one of Kinzo's, the same kind as the one Maria had
Wait,
taken
hold on
out.
a minute. So when it says Western envelope, they have different envelopes in Japan normally?
I guess so, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is.
It just occurred to me that was...
Yeah, this is a very fancy looking envelope. I guess there's a difference in style. I have to look it up. Oh shit. Look at that choir in the background.
That MIDI choir.
There can be no mistake. It is one of the master's envelopes. Or could it be...
Dun 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 dun.
Well... Even though this is a very serious scene... no. Even though this was one of Kinzo's envelopes, the letter Maria read aloud the previous night hadn't come from Kinzo. Genji continued knocking a little harder and called out in a loud voice. Eva-sama! Eva-sama! It is Genji! Are you there? Please answer me, Eva-sama! Where there was no response from the inside. Sometimes, when the servants went to call some guests for a meal, the guests would be sleeping so deeply that they wouldn't wake up. In times like that, the servants would stick a letter in the door to show that it was time to come out and leave the guest be. But despite that, Genji beat even harder on the door and called out Ava's name. However, there was no answer. Kanon stuck his ear up to the door, held his breath, and listened for any sounds coming from inside. I hear something that sounds like the television, but I don't sense anyone. The room might be empty. Genji took out a handkerchief and, careful not to touch it with his bare hands, gently pulled out the envelope that had been stuck under the door. It was sealed with deep red sealing wax. Without a doubt, the mark on that sealing wax had come from the Oshiromiya family head's ring. Eva-sama! Eva-sama! Please answer. Are you still in your room? But there was still no answer. There was a chance that those two were aimlessly walking around the mansion. This was the home Eva had grown up in. There was plenty of reason to think that she had gone out on a casual stroll. No, there wasn't. Oh my god. Genji groped around his pocket and pulled out the bundle of keys, which contained the key that would open the guest room. Genji-sama. Kanon also understood what this meant. They would sometimes unlock the door so they could go in and do things like make the beds, but only after they made sure the guests were out. To unlock the door for any other reason, and especially to do so when there was a chance the guests hadn't given permission and might still be in there, was an action unbecoming of a servant. But Genji had decided. The only problem had been that his knock hadn't received a reply. He wouldn't have gotten as far. But the envelope under the door was doubtlessly one of Kinzo's, or rather, one of the Western envelopes that the Oshiromiya family had. After last night, so this envelope could be someone other than Kinzo. If this letter had been sent by someone else... Eva-sama, my apologies, allow me to enter your room. After giving that final notice, Genji stuck one of the keys from the bundle into the keyhole. There was the sound of the door unlocking, and after slowly turning the knob, he slowly started opening the door. Oh god. Light seeped through the crack of the door.
Oh.
Are you ready for this?
I'm not ready!
Were they in the room, or had they forgotten to turn out the lights? Like, it was the sound of the door chain being pulled tight. The chain had been secured. The chain couldn't be secured from the outside, so it also proved they were in the room. The sound of voices on the TV seeped out of the room. The lights, the chain, and the TV, all of these things made it clear they were in the room, but there was no sign of them. Genji called out to Eva once again through the crack of the door, but there was no answer. Genji-sama, what should we do? As part of their job, the servants were able to unlock almost any lock in the mansion, but they had nowhere to open a door with the chain. The only way to get by the chain was to cut it. That was certainly not permitted as part of a servant's usual work. A creepy chill had already rushed up their backs. Kanon held his breath again and tried to sense someone through the door, but even so, he was not able to sense anyone. I will call Madame and return. Kanon, cut the chain. Yes. As Kanon hurried away to get a cutting tool, Genji called him to a stop. Wait, Kanon. Return to the kitchen and take Kumasawa with you. You must not act alone. Yes, certainly. It looked like Kanon was wondering why he had to do something so troublesome in the middle of this urgent situation, but Genji had said it out of wariness. He didn't care what happened to himself. But in the worst case scenario, he didn't want anything to happen to Kanon. In the kitchen, Kumasawa was piling food on the servant cart. Nanja was waiting for Genji, apparently wanting to show him a move he'd finally thought up that might turn the tables on him. But Genji's appearance immediately told him that something was wrong. Oh, what has happened, Genji-san? Dr. Nanjo, my apologies, but please allow this match to be suspended for the time being. Kanon, take care of the chain. Kumasawa, stop setting up dinner for now and accompany Kanon. I will go over to Madame. If you would come with me, Dr. Nanjo. Something happened. Genji took Nanjo, who still didn't know what was going on, and quickly left the kitchen. Kumasawa-san, my apologies, but please, come with me. What has happened, Kanon-san? Kumasawa said almost exactly the same thing as Nanjo, unable to take in the situation, and chased after Kanon, who had flown out into the hallway. Taking Kumasawa with him, Kanon went to a storage room and looked through the tools, packed in toolboxes and hanging all over the walls, trying to find something that could be used to cut the chain. What are you looking for? Let me help too. They're cutting a door chain. Where was that large wire cutter? A door chain? Why would you do something like that? The chain to Eva and Hideyoshi-sama's room. Even though they should be inside, they didn't answer when we called them. It took Kumasawa some time to figure out how cutting the chain and Eva and Hideyoshi not answering were connected, but she did realize that this was an urgent situation. That one will probably do the trick. Kanon took down a very large wire cutter that had been hanging on the wall. It was called a cutter, but maybe it'd be easy to understand if we said it was shaped like a large pair of pliers. Kanon remembered once being warned that this dangerous tool could easily cut through one of your fingers. Kanon took that and rushed up the stairs. He already knew instinctively he should fight for every minute, every second to open it quickly. Or perhaps it was already... Please wait, Kanon-san, huh? Hurry! Kumasawa eventually caught up with him, gasping for breath with both hands on her knees. When Kanon changed his grip on the wire cutters and looked up at the door, Len, struck speechless. This is fine. What is this? Yeep. Kumasawa screamed weakly, her face pallid. That was no surprise, because right there, on the door, it's like the magic circle that had been drawn on the shutter of the Rose Garden storehouse. There was another eerie shape drawn with a blood-like paint. However, it would be odd to call this one a magic circle, because, unlike what most people would expect, it wasn't a circle with shapes drawn inside it, but a slightly more complicated geometrical shape. However, those strange characters filling in the gaps, which weren't from the alphabet, were the same kinds as the ones on the magical circle on the shutter. But the thing that had Kanon struck speechless wasn't how eerie the magical circle was. It was that something like this hadn't been here a short while ago. First, he had taken a trip back to the kitchen. After that, he'd gone to the storage room to grab a tool and headed right back. Put those together and it could have been more than 5 minutes. How could someone add something this creepy during that period of time? And as though it had just been drawn, almost like the door itself was bleeding, several unsettling vertical red lines slowly dripped down, getting longer and longer. Eep! Eek! Kumasawa's knees gave way and she sank down on the spot. If Kumasawa hadn't done this first, then Kanon surely would have wanted to. Beatrice Sama! Eek! It's the work of Beatrice Sama! How horrid! How horrid! Question marks. Kanon gulped, then readied the wire cutter and approached the door. He didn't want to get close to this disturbing magical circle, and he really didn't want to touch the steadily dripping substance that looked like blood.
So is the point of the line saying that the lines were getting longer, that it was dripping, or that it was still, like, drawing itself?
Either interpretation is potentially correct.
Right.
Those are both good interpretations, though. But if he didn't get close, he wouldn't be able to cut the chain. Fighting this cold feeling, he gulped again, and after gathering his courage, he went even closer, putting the wire cutter up against the chain. He then pressed with all of his strength, managing to cut through the chain far more easily than he had anticipated. The cut chain fell into 2 separate parts, which continued to clang as they swung back and forth. Kanon-san, there's an envelope by your feet. Isn't that the master's? It looked like Kumasawa had also noticed the western envelope at the bottom of the door, and that the sealing wax had been sealed with the head's ring. Kanon hesitated for just a second over whether he should open the letter first or check inside the room, but he eventually decided on fulfilling his original purpose. Kanon pulled a handkerchief out of his pocket. This was so he wouldn't leave fingerprints on the door. If his worst fears were realized, the police would want to investigate this room as well. Slowly pushed the door open. He was able to more clearly hear the sound of the television, which had been seeping out faintly this whole time.
I like how they framed out the beds.
Yeah. Eva-sama, Eva was lying face up on the bed with her shoes still on. Kumasawa, who had fearfully entered after Kanon and who was hiding behind his back, screamed out in shock, "Eek!" again when she saw Eva like that. Eva's shoes had been the first part of her that Kanon had seen, so the oddness of her wearing shoes in bed was the first thing to strike him. When Eva's head shifted into his line of sight, Kanon couldn't help but let out a short scream like Kumasawa. Right in the middle of Eva's forehead, something had been placed. Something was growing there? No. Right in the center of her forehead. Was it an old-fashioned knife?
It was very loud.
Yeah. That or some weapon like it was sticking out. Yeah. At the base of where it was stuck in, blood dripped down, staining the sheets on the other side bright red. Kumasawa's knees gave way once more and she sank down to the floor. Her mouth kept flapping, open and closed, but she couldn't even scream. Eva was dead, with some kind of weapon sticking out of her forehead. Both eyes were open wide, and the image of the person who killed her must have been burned into them. But the only mouth capable of naming that person had been shut for all eternity. Even though her forehead was the last place they wanted to look, they couldn't tear their eyes from it. Right there, the weapon was stuck into Eva's forehead, standing almost perfectly upright. And on the handle was a complicated design that you wouldn't expect to see on an ordinary weapon. That thing, we summed up with the word occult. It was a vulgar object, with a design that might have been of some demon. Perhaps the 33rd demon.
Perhaps.
What about Hideyoshi-sama? Hideyoshi-sama! Eva was on top of her bed, but the other bed was empty. Where was Hideyoshi? After taking a backwards glance at Kumasawa, still on her knees and stupefied, he checked the bathroom just in case. But the moment he opened the door, he was greeted by steam and the sound of the shower. The bathroom was of the same familiar style as most hotel bathrooms. When taking a shower, a waterproof curtain was used to keep water from flying out. That waterproof curtain was half open, and lying tumbled down in the bathtub was Hideyoshi, completely naked with both eyes open, and pointing right at Kanon. Just like Eva, a weapon with a demon-like design was stuck into his forehead. As his head had been under the shower's hot water this whole time, his face wasn't half covered, and filthy with blood like Eva's had been. The sight of him dead while still taking a shower was tragic enough. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
You right-click for me? Yeah, let's go. Let's check
Alright.
out clues!
System.
Characters! Yeah!
Where are we?
There you go. So, shall I? Ushumi Eva found on the bed of a guest room inside the mansion, with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of her forehead. And Ushumi Hideyoshi found in the bathroom of the same guest room that Eva was found in. Stop jumping ahead. Like Eva, there was a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his forehead. You can't see either of them by looking through the gap of the door while the chain is set. You can't see them, so you can't reach them. Hey, how could a human possibly kill them?
Who was the other person that had that at the end of their... Someone else had...
Kraus has a weird thing there. What do them do? Ah!
Yeah, everyone will be revived in the gold.
Yeah!
Of everything.
And Rudolph does. He has a right to lament his ill fortune. He was chosen by the demon's roulette. And what was Goda's thing? Oh yeah, I'll get to see her again so I don't feel lonely. Oh, yeah.
I feel like this is probably something to do with the fact that Marina's all occult and shit.
Maybe. It's a great question. Who is writing these?
Tips.
Nothing new yet. Oh, you want to look at the epitaph?
So, those who remain should praise my noble name.
Yep. And then there's a lot of gouging that happens.
So we're currently down to how many characters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yep.
So,
8 have been killed. 1 is missing.
so we got 1,
9 are currently
2,
around.
3, 4, 5.
5.
So 5 of the 10 people are still supposed to die.
Yep. Sounds about right. Got a problem with that?
Nope.
Yeah. Just then they heard Natsu's voice coming from the hall. She was probably coming with Genji. Again with this graffiti! What about this letter? What does it say inside? I don't know, I haven't read it yet. We shouldn't touch it carelessly. The culprit's fingerprints might be left on it. We should hand it over to the police. They went out of their way to leave it here. I'm sure they wouldn't have left fingerprints. As Natsu said that, she picked up the envelope. She's so great. And before checking its contents, she entered the room herself where she found Eva dead.
It's about time.
Eva-san! Madam, Hideyoshi-san is here too. All the blood. This is truly atrocious. Kanon, turn off the shout. Don't let this be any more pitiful than it needs to be. Oh, that was definitely not. Yes, ma'am. Kanon gripped his handkerchief and twisted the valve, turning off the shower. In the bathtub, a small jar of bloody soap had fallen with its cap off.
It doesn't say bloody.
Oh, body soap. My bad. I got caught up in the moment. It really looked like you'd been attacked while taking a shower. Bloody soap, yeah.
Yes.
There was a small splash of blood clinging to the white bathtub, and the combination of red and white made a horrible contrast. Dr. Nanjo, I understand. No signs of postmortem vivity, rigor mortis hasn't begun either. It would seem that an hour or so has passed since they were killed. But even so, how a weapon with such a short handle could do that to the skull? I cannot imagine. Nanjo checked their pulse and their pupils, making certain of their deaths once more. As Kanon watched this business-like treatment, he thought, couldn't you tell at a glance that they're dead without doing all that? Nanjo thought about removing the weapon, but then decided it'd be better to preserve the scene and hand it over to the police and left it alone. But a close inspection of the base showed that it didn't have a blade. In fact, it was more conical than blade-shaped. He noticed that rather than a knife, it was more like a short-handled spear, something with a shape better suited for thrusting than slicing. Rather than a short spear, you might call it a thick ice pick. At any rate, after looking at the scene, no further words were needed to describe what sort of terrible purpose such eerily designed weapons were originally made for, nor was it necessary to explain how they carried out their function. Natsu, hoping to escape the repulsive steam, filling the bathroom as soon as she could, covered her mouth with her handkerchief and dashed from the room. Just viewing their gruesome bodies for an instant had been enough to burn the image into her eyes. If she looked any longer, that image would surely remain in her vision for all eternity. The rising urge to vomit was exactly the same feeling she had that morning at the Kanon storehouse. For a while, Natsu couldn't help but stand with her back facing the guest room, fighting that sickness in her stomach. At any rate, we can't let the children... We can't let George see this room. Seal this room with all haste. Yes, we mustn't let them see if George-san saw his parents in this brutal state. They could tell that those fiercely racing footsteps in the hallway belonged to George, even before he came dashing into the room. George and the other children had been waiting in the parlor. However, when they saw Genji speak to Natsuhi, and they saw her turn pale and fly out of the parlor, they'd felt a sense of foreboding. And when they saw a large group of people gathered around the guest room, they were sure of it. Father! Mother!
What is this? Another magic circle, except not round? On Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi, you're safe, right? Hey, Kanon-kun, what's all this about?
Papa-sama.
Kanon didn't have to say anything. George screamed after he ran into the room and told them everything they needed to know.
Who did this? I'll kill you, I'll kill you! George-kun, hang in there.
Natsui touched George's shoulder with her hand, but he violently shook her off. George fell over beside Eva and buried his face in the front of his mother's face, wailing. Then he pounded on the bed with his fist over and over again. George-san, hang in there. Battler.
Papa-sama.
Battler had his back against the wall of the hallway. He was covering his eyes with his right hand and weeping without restraint. Horrible. That's horrible. Close to the girl he loved and lost her the next day. The same day even his mom and dad were killed. Isn't that too harsh? Of course, it's sad whenever anyone dies, no matter who it is. But the Battler, those left alone by the deaths of others, were far more worthy of pity. Everyone here now had lost someone close to them. George wasn't the only one to be pitied. However, George's pain was far greater than everyone else's. Battler. I know everyone dies sooner or later. If you're human, you'll eventually reach a time when you've got to fight the sorrow of losing someone close to you. Still, shouldn't that day be far in the future for Aniki? Shouldn't those deaths visit him one at a time? Horrible. It's too horrible. Bastard. That bastard. Doesn't he even have a speck of human sympathy in him? Ah!
Don't cry, don't cry.
Everyone will be revived.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. Keep going.
Maria tried to comfort Battler in a mechanical-sounding voice. Battler violently wiped his tears. Yeah, damn it, I won't cry anymore. Tears of regret, tears of sadness, I won't shed them again. It's all useless.
All useless.
That witch has got me backed into a corner. I'm always on the defensive. That's useless. It's all useless.
It's all useless! Catchphrase!
Catchphrase!
I'll spin the just morale!
Other catchphrase! Bastard probably thinks we'll be running scared like sheep until tomorrow before we try anything. Guess what? I'll spin it around. That bastard can't escape this island until tomorrow either. We won't be hiding away, pissing ourselves. That bastard will. I'll expose you. You'll see. By tomorrow. Screw tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Oh!
Before tonight's over, I'll be gripping you by the collar. Is that confirmed? It's canon?
I don't know. Oh, God.
Oh, no.
I'm so excited. What is this? Oh, God. At any rate, we'll lock this room and leave everything as it is until the police come. No objections, I take it.
Natsui announced as though she didn't care whether they agreed or not. If anyone had a right to object, it would have been George, but he looked as though he'd shed enough tears. George nodded slightly, still facing away from the others. And when he stood up, everyone else agreed too. Natsui still hadn't opened that western envelope of the family head that she'd picked up. But now that they decided to leave this room, she decided to unseal it in the parlor where everyone could watch.
Bad idea.
As soon as they walked out into the hallway to head back to the parlor, some of them immediately felt something out of place, or maybe sensed something strange.
Oh, shit. Ew. Stinks?
Did you notice it too, Maria? Seriously, what's that smell? It's awful. All the food has gone rotten.
No. Continue, please.
When everyone sniffed the air, they did notice a horrible burnt smell drifting through the hallways. One that none of them had smelled until then.
I will go quickly to check the kitchen. I'm sure I turned the flame off.
After noticing a burnt smell, it was natural that Kumasawa, who had just been using the burner in the kitchen, suspected her and slip-up had caused it. Kumasawa hastily dashed away.
Kanon, go with Kumasawa. Do not let her be alone. Yes.
After nodding at Genji's order, Kanon followed after her. He wasn't running, but as he followed her, he tried to search for the cause of the smell in other directions as well. I do find it interesting that after two people are murdered in their own room, it's like, yeah, pairs will keep you safe, guys.
It'll be fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. Ew. Fucking ew. Ew. Stinks. Ew. It truly is a stench that makes the nose wrinkle. What kind of saying is that? However, that doesn't mean we can just open a window for ventilation.
Poetry.
Oh, God.
Natsui was reluctant to open the windows in a situation where self-defense was so important.
Let us run the fan. I do not believe there will be any need to open the windows. They only have one fan? Alright.
George and Nikki, is it okay if I talk to you?
Oh, God. If it's about finding the culprit, then I have no problems.
It seemed that George had managed to climb out of the abyss of sorrow.
Ugh.
All that filled his chest now was the quiet flame of hatred towards the culprit who'd stolen the lives of the one he loved and his beloved parents. The chain from this room was set. From what I could tell by looking at it, I'm positive that it couldn't be opened from the outside. In other words, this was a perfect closed room. I'm glad that we're recurring our themes.
That does seem to be the case. The recurring theme, that is. In the case of the Rose Garden storehouse, they might have sneaked the show's key out of the servant room. Or maybe they had a duplicate key. I can imagine many ways they could have done it. But this chain is different. Among generally used locking techniques, a chain is the simplest one to create a closed room with.
Only a chain will block everyone from coming from the outside as long as it isn't physically broken. So does this mean the culprit could have gone in or out through the door? That's interesting. Just a few hours ago, I seem to remember everyone making fuss over how to enter a room without using the door. Back then, we were all losing our cool, wondering how Grandfather had disappeared from his room. The receipt Aunt Eva stuck in the door on a whim proved that the door had remained sealed. And since Aunt Natsui was the only person to enter or exit during that time, she was under suspicion. Aunt Eva proposed a theory about how Aunt Natsui might have thrown grandfather out the window and left the door by herself. But this door is much simpler. It was sealed from the inside by the door chain.
I love the diagrams.
The window had also been locked from the inside, and the bodies had been inside the room. This time it really had been, without exaggeration, a true closed room. Unless, of course, it was Maria who was small enough to fit through the gap.
That's also possible. Somebody could have fit through the gap somehow.
That's right. If you included grandfather's disappearance, its 3 cases have occurred. All 3 times the door has been the point of interest. Beatrice is a door!
Confirmed. Or she is a key.
Hold on, you just confirmed.
What? No, I didn't mean to. Scratch that from the record, quick.
Delete this
Ah,
episode.
shit.
Starting again.
Oh god, no.
First was the shutter. There's a key in the servant room, and if we assume someone knew about that, this can't really be called a closed room.
The study.
Next was the door sealed by the receipt. However, Natsui entered that room, so if grandfather had left through the window or been thrown out, she would have been able to lock the window before escaping. Or like my theory, grandfather could have hidden it until the receipt was gone and left the room later. Basically, this door can be defeated with a handful of desperate tricks. In that sense, you really can't call this one a closed room either. And now we have the door sealed with the door chain. Finally, we have to give up. The window, the door, everything had been locked. It was a perfect closed room. The first hadn't been a closed room because everyone could be suspected. The second hadn't been a closed room because Natsuhi could be suspected. But this time, no one can be suspected. This was a perfect closed room because the door chain formed a seal that blocked everyone equally well.
In that case, the culprit carry out the crime without entering the room? With some method from outside the room.
I love the background of this shot.
The portrait?
Totally not
That's
chosen
so good.
specifically.
I love it.
Good point. Even though the chain makes it impossible to open it wide enough for a person to fit through, you can open it to a small crack. Did the culprit knock on the door to make them peer out before attacking them? Wait, am I missing something? I love the idea that, like, they did the, like, heads stacked on top of each other thing at the door, and then were both hit in the face.
Just hit in the face and, like, flung across the room. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, you are. If Aunt Ava's body had been lying right next to the door, then it might have been possible. But she was on the bed at the back of the room. Uncle Hideyoshi's was even in the bathroom. Looking from the crack in the door, you couldn't even see them, and you couldn't reach them with your hands either. Damn, it's all useless. I don't have a clue. Something was tugging softly at my sleeve.
It's a dog!
It's a dog. Oh, it's Maria.
Aw, if only.
If only.
Like we had a dog into this stupid kid. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
Wow.
I shouldn't say that.
You shouldn't
I'm
say
sorry. She's a very intelligent young creature, and she's going, ooh. Satisfied?
That's pretty great. That's not the answer I was expecting. What do you mean satisfied?
That's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Battler, since you didn't want to suspect any of your relatives, you made a wish saying you wanted the culprit to be Beatrice, right? Well, Beatrice granted that wish. Just as you asked, she did something that was completely impossible for a human to make you believe in the witch. And now you're complaining how selfish. Ouch!
I tapped Maria, who was laughing unpleasantly, on the head with my fist.
Goddamn.
A tap.
A tap.
Sure, thanks for granting that wish. That just now was to thank you, and also to teach you to stop laughing when it's inappropriate.
Damn!
Oh! More importantly, tell me. There was another mysterious scribble on the door to Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi's room. Was that another magic circle? No, dummy, it wasn't a circle.
It was a geometrical shape with what looked like llamas in the shape. That's what I saw anyway.
Was the last one Arabic, was it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'm sure they'll talk about it now.
Yeah.
That one had a really memorable and characteristic design, so I'd hope you at least know what it was. Ouch! Stop hitting her.
I don't know, which is why I'm letting you take the credit. Quit whining and explain.
You sure are violent, Battler. I won't tell you if you're too mean. Get it? Ouch! Ew, I'll say it. Stop hitting me. Oh my god.
Nice.
That's the first. Oh god. I'm laughing too hard.
I feel like I need to start taking notes again. What was the last magic circle? Was it the one of the sun?
It was... Oh, God. The thing is, I don't want to say something that hasn't been said yet, so we'll probably have to go back through the...
Just look it up after we record this.
But we might have to. That's the first magic circle of the moon.
What does it mean? What is this magic circle's effect? What does the Hebrew... What does the Hebrew writing
Close
mean?
enough. The words are from the Old Testament, Psalms 107, verse 16, as you pull out your phone to look that up.
Yep.
For he has broken gates of brass and cuts through bars of iron. This one will be easy to remember. This magic circle has two effects. First, it can open a door regardless of which method has been used to lock it. This is you.
That sure is convenient. Hold on. Stop.
What?
Stop.
What?
Stop.
Why stop? Oh my god.
Okay.
You want to check what it is? 107 verse 16, I think.
107
I think it was verse 16.
16.
Oh my god. Or was it 18? Hold on. I can check
Okay,
it.
wait, stop. What does it say?
16, there you go. He has broken gates of brass and cuts through bars of iron.
Uh-huh.
Is that what it says? But, oh yeah, it's close to what you've got.
Yeah.
He does it, yeah.
This is bronze, not...
So you,
It says bronze, not brass.
same difference.
Same difference.
Either way.
The following line is, some became fools through their rebellious ways.
Huh. Interesting. Alright, well.
It sure is convenient, so you're saying they're trying to make it look like they're a witch because this closed room has a door that can't be opened without relying on magic? And the other effect?
When you're blocked by unopenable doors in all directions, it opens a door. By using it in a difficult situation, it gives you a solution you hadn't even thought of until then. Generally speaking, you receive the powers of observation and discernment, inspiration and intuition. Beatrice is trying to provoke you, since there's no way lowly humans like Battler could figure out how this door was opened. Ow!
Okay, good work, so shut up.
Damn.
Sounds great, I'll accept this challenge from the witch.
Please do. Maria-chan. Things like witches and demons don't exist in this world. Someone killed father and mother. I don't know whether that was someone I know or not, but either way, it was definitely a human.
Yeah, but how? How did they reach those two through that crack in the door? It couldn't have been more than 10 centimeters wide.
At any rate, I can hardly stand this stench, and I'm just going to stand here with this big fuck-off gun that totally could shoot through that crack. What in the world could it be?
I also feel like... Actually, no, now that you mention it... Well, I guess the whole thing was Natsui was supposedly in the room with them the whole time. Supposedly. Yeah. The other issue is, I feel like a gunshot wound probably... They didn't actually see if there was an exit wound, did they?
No, they, left everything intact. Because they're trying to preserve the crime scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't really know much about the wound.
Kanon and Kumasawa, who had gone on ahead, realized the smell wasn't coming from the kitchen even before they arrived there. That was because they noticed an even thicker wave of stench rising up from the stairs leading to the basement, which they passed on their way to the kitchen.
Yeah, the boiler room. I wonder if there's something wrong with the boiler again. Those stairs led to the underground boiler room. The mansion's boiler was old and in poor condition. Both of them had witnessed problems with the boiler on several occasions, but they never smelled the boiler belching out a stench like this before. Are you ready? Slam! What was that sound? The thing they heard from the basement was definitely the sound of a door closing. Kumasawa had phrased it as a question, but she already knew it couldn't be anything else. Kumasawa was so surprised at the sound that her knees gave way yet again and she cowered.
Fucking needs to do some squats.
I know. After all, at that very moment, no one could have been in the boiler room. Just a few seconds ago, everyone had been crowded together around Eva and Hideyoshi's room. So who caused the sound of the door closing just now? Exclamation point. Kanon-san! After taking a second to sort out the situation, Kanon ran down towards the basement. Since they'd heard the sound of a door closing just now, and there was no sign of anyone coming up the stairs, the person who closed the door had to be inside the boiler room now.
Had to be.
If the boiler room had been a dead end, Kanon wouldn't have rushed in so hastily. But Kanon was a servant, so he knew. There were two entrances to the boiler room, one that opened to the mansion and one that opened to the courtyard. If he didn't chase them now, they might slip away. Kumasawa reached the same conclusion long after Kanon did, but she couldn't let him go alone. If the thing in the boiler room was the culprit, an opponent who could easily kill 6 adults in the first murder, then no matter how Kanon confronted them, he wouldn't be a match. Of course, with this argument, even if Kumasawa joined him, it wouldn't change anything. At any rate, after a delay, Kumisawa decided that she mustn't let Kanon go alone, and she rushed down the stairs.
I'm glad we finally addressed that problem.
Oh, God. Oh, I hope you're ready for this shit. The boiler room! At that time, Kanon was already in the boiler room. The boiler room's characteristic damp heat tormented him. It had always been an unpleasantly smelly and hot place. And on top of that, the room was full of that horrible stench, which made Kanon feel like he was going to be sick. There was no doubt that this room was the source. In that case, Kanon should have been searching for where the smell was coming from. However, Kanon kept gazing straight forward as he grabbed a hatchet from a tool shelf just off to the side of the door. He hadn't stretched out his hand because he wanted a hatchet. He had wanted to grab a weapon, any weapon. Why? Kanon gazed into the darkness where the naked light bulb couldn't pierce. Then he answered. In roulette, you bet on a number or the colors red or black, vying for a payoff. However, low-risk bets like black and red only offer a similarly low payoff. The words coming from Kanon's mouth were swallowed up by the darkness. That darkness suddenly started to swell, glittering.
That's new.
Yeah. It was such a fantastical scene. Golden, sparkling butterflies that hid in the shadows all over the boiler room flapped their wings, twinkling beautifully, and gathered in the darkness, disappearing. Kanon continued speaking, directing his words at the darkness as it swallowed the butterflies up. But as the butterflies gathered in the darkness, they probably they would certainly laugh. But Kanon continued to speak without faltering in the slightest. However, if you bet on something with a lower probability, your payoff increases proportional to the risk. The masker called succeeding despite an astronomical risk a miracle, and called the astronomical payout gained as a result magic. I have no interest in what kind of magic you and the master were seeking when you spun that roulette, but you forgot something. You forgot that in roulette there's a pocket that's neither black nor red. Roulette has a special pocket called Zero, which means that the house takes everything in certain variants of this game. This means that all of the coins bet on the table will be swept up, just as though everyone is forfeit. I set my heart on just one thing. I decided that if Shannon were to be killed and I was left alive, I'd sacrifice this life of mine and bring this roulette of yours to ruin. This isn't one of the master's rules, and it certainly isn't one of yours. I made this rule myself. I'm not furniture anymore. I'm the zero in your roulette. Kanon's face twisted with humiliation. It was clear that his defiance against his own weaknesses was being ridiculed somehow. Kanon's brow creased even further, and a fierce expression that he'd never shown to anyone appeared on his face. The hand grasping the hatchet was shaking. His sweat became drops which slid downward. It was clear that the emotion causing Kanon's hand to shake wasn't just anger. However, Kanon suppressed that emotion. I won't let your words lead me astray again. This is where the demon's roulette ends. Wait, another 1,000 years in hell for your next summoner! Beatrice! When Kanon raised the hatchet and tried to dive into the darkness definitely sneered. It sneered at that courage as if it were vulgar, lazy, futile, and meaningless.
You hit the spacebar really hard just then.
I was excited.
Is that it? We've given Beatrice enough power now?
I don't know. Wait for it. Kanon, his hatchet still held aloft, couldn't take another step after that. With a clang, the hatchet that he'd been grasping fell and rolled on the floor. And following that, with a pair of thuds, Kanon's knees hit left then right. That hand, which had looked like it was trying to catch the sky now that the hatchet had been dropped, gradually lowered, landing on his chest. Then the other hand did the same.
So what were the images we saw?
It was a portrait of Beatrice.
And there was another one, wasn't there? Or was it just a flash?
There was just some flashing going
Okay.
on. Right there was a handle with a demonic design engraved in it. As Kanon looked down his chest, the same type of weapon that had been stabbed into Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads was. Kanon was curled up in anguish. fresh blood dripping from the corners of his mouth. It was makeup too extreme for Kanon's white skin.
Don't chase the butterflies.
Yeah. They go alone to an empty room. Around this scene, glittering gold butterflies dance through the darkness, mesmerizing. It was a beautiful, beautiful dance, a funeral march of a tribute, ridicule, and contempt for a single boy's self-sacrifice. Kanon had already been prepared for his own death, but although he could do nothing but accept the death he had received, he attempted one last measure of resistance. He grasped the handle of the weapon, sticking to his chest with both hands, and gritting his teeth with an acute, unearthly pain, he pulled it out. For only a moment, a bright red spray gushed out, made an unpleasant bloop sound. It probably resembled the sound of Kanon's soul as it was sucked into the swamp of the dead.
Still never found out what the stench was.
Yeah, it's fine, we'll learn. Kanon-san! Eek! Someone! Eek! Kumasawa screamed at the incomprehensible sight in front of her. Kanon was lying in a pool of blood. Kumasawa's heart was a complete mess. What a horrible fate. He wouldn't have been killed if I had been with him.
Sure.
What incredible luck. If I had been with him, I might have been killed too. Yeah. As she screamed, her expression was filled with complete confusion. All the muscles of her face were pulled up, almost as though she was smiling while crying. But no one could have made fun of an expression like this. What is it, Kumasawa? Answer me, Kumasawa!
The first one to dash in was Natsuri holding the rifle. Battler and Genji dashed in after her. Normally they probably would have started discussing the origin of that violent stench filling the boiler room, but after they saw Kanon, who was lying on the ground as if he were drowning in an ocean of his own blood, the stench wasn't important anymore.
Kanon! Answer me! Genji, bring Dr. Najo here!
Natsui realized that even though Kanon was on the verge of death, he was still conscious, so she sent Genji to get the doctor. Natsui, holding the rifle aloft, faced the darkness in the center of the boiler room and shouted,
Who is hiding over there? Come out quietly. If you don't come out from there, I'll shoot without mercy.
We need a light. And Natsui, let's light them up. Battler, thinking quickly, took a large flashlight from the tool shelf alongside the door and used its light to cut through the darkness Natsui was glaring into. But the light only shone on mechanical-looking piping and a door. The door had been left open a small crack, and it was obvious that someone had left through there in a hurry. And Natsui, where does that door go?
Genji! Where does that door lead to? The courtyard.
Like hell I'd let you get away, you damn bastard! Battler let out a war cry as he slammed into the door. Cool air from outside suddenly rushed in. There were some thin, rough stairs leading up. Battler ran up them, shouting.
Wait, Battler-kun! It's dangerous to be on your own right now!
Natsui was also rushing up the stairs, chasing after Battler. They were in the courtyard. The courtyard of the mansion had been built strictly for lighting purposes, so it wasn't a very elegant place. Because it was surrounded on all sides, the air was calm and completely undisturbed, even though they could hear the sound of strong winds. There was only the gentle, sorrowful rain. As he ran through the cold and scattered raindrops, dashing up the stairs into the courtyard, Battler looked in every direction. Of course, the odds of him finding a suspicious silhouette just standing around nonchalantly were pretty much zero. Battler spun, looking all around. He turned again and again. He kept spinning until he almost lost his sense of direction. He prayed that he would see the culprit somewhere in this scenery, but there was no chance. All he saw as he spun was more and more of the mansion's heartless walls and windows. Furthermore, there were two entrances in the mansion from the courtyard, and neither of them were locked. Because the courtyard couldn't be entered from the outside mansion, the doors had been built without locks. He didn't know which one they'd left through. He had to give up. Battler pounded the wall with his fist, swearing.
Battler-kun, you mustn't run ahead by yourself. Battler-kun?
Battler pressed his forehead against the wall, which he scratched at with his fingernails as he cried. Damn it, damn it, damn it! And even Uncle Hideyoshi, and now Kanon-kun. You killed a full 6 people, and that wasn't enough, so you had to kill 3 more. Kidding me? Fucking kidding me? My neighbor and Uncle Hideyoshi were always kind of fun. Just met Kanon yesterday, but I'm sure I'd have gotten along fine with him. You kill them. Why? Why? And when people die, they don't come back to life again, right? Foreshadowing! They aren't gonna quickly sprout up again like bamboo shoots. Also why'd you kill them? Why? Why? Ah!
Not happy.
Battler was a boy who could understand the feelings of pain and regret in a person's heart. So he cried. With all his strength. Natsui, who had always thought of Battler as a frank person, was a little surprised to find he had this delicate side. And at the same time, she understood how easily hurt the heart of a young person could be, so she held him.
Oh. It's alright. I will definitely protect you, George-kun, Maria-chan, and Jessica. As a mother, and as a representative of the Oshinomiya family.
Ah! Ah!
Not happy.
Battler, after sobbing into Natsui's chest for a while, wiped his tears with a bitter smile as though he'd been like that the whole time and tried to appear as though he'd cried more than enough already.
Anyway, let's go back down for now. Protecting ourselves is a higher priority than finding the culprit. Tomorrow the boat will arrive. After that happens, the police will come and everything should be brought to light. There's no way the culprit can escape sound no matter how much they struggle.
That's right. The police come. When the seagulls cry, the crime will be solved.
It's true. Let's go wait for that seagull cry.
Not gonna happen. For some reason, Battler felt a slight sense of uneasiness, as though the seagulls would never cry again.
Fuck.
That couldn't be true. When the typhoon passes, surely the lively seagulls will return to the harbor again.
There's years and days. I just want them back so bad. Oh, man.
Oh, man. I returned to the boiler room along with Aunt Natsui and told everyone weakly that we hadn't found anything. We heard that Dr. Najo and George Aniki had carried Kanon-kun to the servant room.
Mm-hmm.
The servant room had a first aid kit and a sink, and it could apparently function as a nurse's office. Kumasawa-san and Jessica had accompanied them. Stains from Kanon-kun's blood remained on the floor. Judging by the large amounts of blood lost in the ruthless shape of the weapon that had fallen carelessly to the ground, I figured that Dr. Nanjo's treatment would probably end in vain. The weapon was doubtlessly the same type that had been struck in Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's foreheads. Wait, isn't the demonic design on the handle a little different?
Oh, please.
There seemed to be some small differences in that part. Still, as far as their overall shape was concerned, the weapons were all of the same type. Though it had seemed brutal, we'd left the weapon stuck in Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's... Uncle Hideyoshi to preserve the crime scene. So this was the first time we were able to have a perfect view of the entire weapon. As we had expected, the weapon was not bladed like a knife, but shaped like an ice pick. Or rather, a thin stake. And yet it had a spiral-shaped pattern, sort of like a drill. It looked like something that might be driven into the hearts of human sacrifices in some demonic ritual. Day 3 is gouge the chest and kill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I think so.
Including the handle, it was 25 centimeters long. Half of the... So no, it was day 4 that's gouged the chest and kill.
Yeah, day 3 is Praise My Noble
Yeah.
Name.
Half of that was the stake-shaped part, which was stained with deep red blood. The length of the blood-stained part made it clear just how deeply it must have penetrated into Kanon-kun's chest. But Aunt Natsui and the rest didn't look at the weapon, and instead stood in front of the incinerator where the horrible stench was emanating from.
Not gonna be.
This is gonna be great! They must have dragged it out. Dragged out that thing which had been burning in the furnace. Not a corpse! It was still smoldering and kept sending out dense waves of that awfully unpleasant smell. Not a corpse! Genji-san and Maria stared down at it. And Natsui probably couldn't stand to look directly at it.
They've kind of given up trying to protect Maria from, like, seeing dead bodies by this point.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, yeah, it's a body. I mean, not confirming it's a body, but it's a body.
She kept shaking her head back to it.
Yeah. Ew.
I thought nothing could surprise me after everything that's happened. But this is... I stood there for a while moaning with a rising urge to vomit. It'd just make the smell worse. The true source of that unearthly stench was a scorched corpse that had been cooking inside the incinerator. The clothes, the surface of the body, and the hair were all hideously burned. Hideyoshiously burned! Oh!
Fuck. You are the worst.
The grotesque corpse was in a state where not the face, nor the age, nor even the gender could be guessed at. But when I thought about it calmly, I realized that a corpse appearing at this time could only be one person. It was grandfather, who had disappeared that morning, and whose whereabouts had been unknown.
I believe it is most likely the master. I agree that he would pass away in such a state. It's heartrending.
But is there any proof that this corpse really is grandfather? It's burnt so black you can't even tell what sex it is.
But look at the feet.
Aunt Natsui, with her handkerchief over her mouth and her eyes averted, pointed, told me to look at the burnt corpse's feet. Eh?
Ooh.
Notice how there
are 6 toes on each foot.
Huh? Oh, you're right. Just as Genji-san had said, there were 6 toes. Nice!
Close. I was close.
There were 6 toes on each foot. Each individual toe looked so normal in its line that I hadn't noticed. I've witnessed people with 6 toes, and it definitely stands out.
I mean, they seem to think it doesn't, so...
Okay.
You know. Yeah. The master was born with 6 toes on both of his feet.
Both of his feet.
Both of his feet. Consequently, the master was entrusted with the revival of the Yoshimiya family.
I'm really
Now,
interested.
this is an interesting statement.
Yeah, that's very peculiar.
He was born with 6 toes, ergo, put in charge of the family. Interesting. I don't know.
Is that a luck thing in Japan?
No, it's a great... we're probably about to find out. I have heard that since long ago, cases of polydactyly were common in the Yoshimiya family. It's probably hereditary.
Polydactyly literally means many fingers. Because of a little mistake by God when the person is born, one of their toes or fingers splits in two and the total number increases. Big deal isn't usually made of polydactyly in the world at large. That's because it isn't a disease, just something people are born with. So while they are still babies, at about that time they turn 1 year old, they can be taken to the hospital and given surgery to make it normal.
Which he didn't get, apparently.
Even a child with polydactyly can be treated before they become aware, so they might not even remember it themselves. By the way, it seems there's a possibility for this to occur in 1 out of every 2,000 babies. So even though it's not usually seen, it isn't that rare at all. Speaking of which, I think Uncle Hideyoshi mentioned something to me long ago. Something about how even Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who unified Japan at the end of the Sengoku period... Sengoku period had 6 fingers on one hand.
Oh my god.
According to Aunt Natsui, among the many Yoshimiya family heads, the ones most praised for their wisdom all had polydactyly. Because of that, when grandfather was born, his relatives were all excited at the thought he might become another wise leader. And when the leading relatives all died in the Great Kanto earthquake, it was apparently argued that grandfather should be the one to restore the family because of the auspicious sign of his birth. If grandfather hadn't disliked his position as the head so much, the 6th toe probably would have been pretty lucky for him. Come to think of it, I've heard about some country where it's believed people with polydactyly should be treated as gods and revered.
That sounds like fun. Let's go there.
I'm interested to see if that's worth looking up.
Oh.
This is beside the point, but it's fairly common in mystery novels for a corpse to be burnt to hide its identity. Like
Not
this one I read called Higurashi.
Yeah. I don't know that there were any... Actually, there was one burned corpse. That's a true fact.
In Higurashi.
In Higurashi, yeah. There was a woman who was, like, burned alive in a drum in the mountains. It's pretty fun.
That's... What?
What?
In the mountains?
Yes.
Okay.
What? I don't know what's
in a drum in the
mountains.
mountains.
A drum in the mountains.
That's just such a weird sentence, even in context.
She gets burned in a drum in the mountains.
Oh god.
She's the one that disappeared. Anyway, that's a different mystery story. We're not reading that one.
So it's the same one.
Huh?
It's the same. So she disappeared and was burned.
I guess so. Yeah.
So okay, interesting.
I don't know.
But I guess that in grandfather's case, just toasting him wouldn't be enough. Needed to add some, some spreads on top.
Oh shit.
Oh.
Good system characters. Oh, I'm so excited. They're not new. System characters. Oh! Go to Kinzo. Look at that. Look at that. Burned in the incinerator with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his forehead. The old sorcerer's wish vanished before it could be granted. He always knew that this was one possible result of his risky gamble. Fuck yeah. So how many is that? How many are dead?
That
10,
is
right?
No.
Or more.
Yeah, 10.
Wait, hold on.
Kanon died as well.
Yeah,
true.
shit,
we got Kanon as well. Where's Kanon?
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, no, he's not dead yet.
They haven't picked him up as being dead yet, I guess. They haven't talked about it. Because he's being, like, treated.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Grandfather's body was not simply burnt. It was just like Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi and the thing that had been stabbed in Kanonkin's chest. One of those demon's ice picks was stuck into his forehead.
What the fuck was that? The head's ring is not on his finger. Yeah, that, like, ka-dong-gong. Did you hear that?
No. I clearly need to put my head.
It was very weird. It was just like ka-dong-gong. It was weird. Anyway, the head's ring is not on his finger. So the letter last night was telling the truth. Father would probably be horribly disappointed.
Natsui-san let her head drop and closed her eyes tightly.
You were too in character as Ava.
I was too in character.
Oh, what's happening?
This room had also become a vital crime scene for us to hand over to the police. It was decided that we would leave grandfather's corpse here and lock the room, sealing it. It isn't clear whether grandfather's corpse started burning in the incinerator.
That's okay. Oh.
Since, according to Genji, the strength of the flames hadn't been that strong, the body must have started burning a long time ago. So that stench could slowly creep out of the furnace and fill the room bit by bit, eventually pouring out and climbing up the staircase. Putting aside whether he was rare or well done.
Battler, come on!
I love that. Grandfather had been brought out, killed, and burned, even though he'd started locked away in the closed room created by his auto-lock. There's probably no doubting this. However, according to Genji-san, the boiler room is usually locked. The possibility that someone outside our group had snuck in and committed the crime was overwhelmingly high. And there was also a good chance that this person was walking around with something like a master key. After all, the doors and windows throughout the mansion had been checked. But despite that, the culprit was able to strut around the mansion freely. Thanks, Garp!
Yeah, fucking Garp. 33rd demon.
Does this crime confirm that a 19th person exists?
Maybe.
There's still that contradiction, since they're trying to tout their existence without ever showing themselves once. Along with Kairi-san's chessboard theory, I've been using this contradiction to deny the existence of a 19th person. By spinning the chessboard around once more, the very fact that this crime makes it perfectly obvious that a 19th person exists. What? Oh. Means that the existence... I didn't read the...
Right, yeah, it's one full sentence. It's not...
It means that the existence of the 19th person is even less plausible. As long as that 19th person doesn't show themselves in front of us. The culprit could get grandfather out through the door sealed by the receipt. They could kill Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi from the other side of the door sealed by a chain. And could they possibly go so far as to create a fictional 19th person through strange tricks and devices?
Yep.
If we still want to believe that the culprit is among the 18, then the list of suspects has grown very short. The four of us kids, and Natsui, Genji-san, Kumasawa-ba-chan, and Dr. Nanjo. One of these people has to be the culprit.
I mean, yeah, what are these 8 people when there are 9 people alive? That's all I'm saying. Oh, is he really gonna say that?
Wait, we can't be sure of that. Just a second ago, we started doubting whether the corpse here was actually grandfather's, right? Maybe we can think of the other bodies in the same way. For example, the first 6 all had their faces horribly smashed. Some of the bodies had kept enough of their faces for us to confirm who they were, but that old bastard, for example, had lost his entire face as though the whole thing had been neatly peeled off.
Ugh.
I only figured out which body was theirs by the clothes and the surroundings. Did the culprit prepare a fake body beforehand and alter it to make it look like they died even though they were actually hiding somewhere after committing the crime? It may sound ridiculous, but it wouldn't be an impossible trick to pull off. It's too early to give in to this 19th person. No, this witch. Damn.
It's a witch that definitely doesn't exist. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Ria-chan, you mustn't stare so fixedly anymore. Come on, Battler-kun as well. I'm worried about Kanon's condition, and we mustn't remain in a place like this any longer than necessary. Let us return.
Maria didn't go out with everyone else, but remained in the boiler room. The things she was staring so fixedly at probably wasn't grandfather's body, but the demon's ice pick sticking out of his forehead. It was probably the sort of item that an enthusiast couldn't bear to ignore.
It's a collector's item.
I tapped her on the head. Hey, Maria. What's Beatrice after? Is it all of our lives?
Smile. There it is. Beatrice will revive very soon. At that time, none shall be left alive.
How can you laugh at something like that? You think you're the only one who's safe? Why don't you feel like you're in danger? Why aren't you scared?
Beatrice made a promise. She said she's gonna take me to the Golden Land. It's a wonderful place where you have no obligations, everyone's always together, and everyone is always nice to everyone else. I'm looking forward to it. That time will come very soon now.
So what kind of person is Maria? I only know what Maria was like 6 years ago when she was 3. She was once pure and obedient, a good kid. This new Maria 6 years later and the Maria I knew didn't seem to fit together. Just who is she, this witch who calls herself Maria? To Maria, who obstinately believes in the witch, a series of unsolvable crimes is proof that the witch actually exists. Every time something occurs that would be difficult for a human, it becomes a little harder for the rest of us not to believe in Beatrice. It must be an intense pleasure for Maria to see her relatives, who once firmly denied the witch's existence, start acknowledging that the witch's existence one by one. Is that why she's in high spirits?
Ooh.
Maria, let me ask this one more time. You'll probably answer this the same anyway, but I'll ask just once more.
Ooh?
Yesterday you were given a letter in the rose garden. Who gave it to you?
Ooh. Like I said, Beatrice. Bethel still doesn't believe. Ooh.
Maria only repeated what she'd already said. Maria met with the 19th person, the witch. Was that really a 19th person, or did one of the 18 just get her to say that? All that's certain is that Maria has been with the rest of us constantly and has always had an alibi and hasn't done anything suspicious.
Mostly.
Other than being out in the rose garden in the rain.
And also saying ooh a lot and laughing like a crazy person.
Yes.
Yes.
She's simply overjoyed at being made Beatrice's messenger and certainly isn't the 19th person. Supposedly.
Can neither confirm nor deny.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
I wonder what's written in the letter we picked up in Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's room.
I haven't even read it yet.
I hadn't even thought of that. And Natsui should still have it with her.
Ooh. Why does she have it with her? What is she doing?
Damn, that is definitely bigger.
That is definitely bigger. That's scary.
That is significantly bigger.
Yep.